A mais recente edição de Flight Simulator chegou ao Xbox e PC no ano passado, com mais de 2 petabytes de imagens de satélite para recriar cenários do mundo real. É uma experiência incrível até para quem nunca jogou antes. Nós chamamos uma piloto de verdade para fazer o review do jogo, que você pode conferir no link na descrição desse vídeo. Você consegue imaginar como deve ter dado trabalho reconstituir fielmente várias cidades, aeroportos e pontos turísticos do mundo todo? A gente fez uma entrevista exclusiva com Jörg Neuman, head do Microsoft Flight Simulator, para saber como foi esse processo. Antes desse voo decolar, aperte seus cintos, se inscreva no canal e já deixa um like nesse vídeo.
We think that 50% of commercial pilots in the world actually fell in love with aviation because of flight simulation. And a lot of them tell you stories about their first, I always point at the wall behind me. They tell me which one they started with, and there's lots of stories, and it's just a sim. Pretty accurate. So people certainly get used to things. And we hear that a lot when you take flight training lessons at all. They oftentimes say, they sort of look at you, they looked at me and said, are you flight simmer? No, there's certain things because of flight simming. They're not exactly 100% what you're supposed to be doing, but it's close enough.
Yeah.
You have familiarity, and I think it's fascinating. This consumer group we call them core simmers, and they know so much about planes. Many of them are pilots, and they tell us. So they give us so much information that we could never get, because we don't sit in all these planes. We can't fly every plane on Earth. But they do, and that what actually is happening nowadays is they take out their phone, and while they're flying, and they take a video and they send it to us in email and say, "Hey, by the way, if you want to know exactly how this button works." A few months ago, I was in Suriname. And then I flew over the rainforest and flew into the Andes, and then landed in Bogota. Will I ever fly in Bogota in the real world? No, I don't think so, But you understand that the air pressure is different, and you understand the wind shear is totally different, right, in that valley. If you fly into Siberia, which I did the other day, it's so cold that all your fuel stuff starts freezing. So everything that's why their planes tend to have a lot of electric, right? They don't have much as far as fluids in their planes, because it would freeze and fall from the sky. When we started, we identified, 500 or so locations that are just famous locations for, I would say, mankind. And you get to cross the Redeemer, you get to the pyramids, you get to the Acropolis, and there's things that resonate across the planet. And we try to be balanced to the degree that we can. So we ran it, we had our own lists, and we had sent it out to people, and they gave us input. So that's how we derived our initial list of what we call POIs, points of interest. And then as far as the 3D photogrammetry cities, that was very opportunistic. We have a close relationship with Bing Maps. Bing Maps already had 400 odd cities that they had made for, I can't tell you exactly why, but they were there and they looked great. So we basically asked them if we can use them, and they allowed us to do so. Keenly interested in doing Brazil. That was sort of one of the questions I think that I anticipated here. I'm trying to find the right data. So what I end up doing is I talk to a bunch of governments, actually. The governments, oftentimes it's the geological institutes in the governmental constructs. Mm-hmm. They have oftentimes the best height data, which we call DEM, digital elevation maps. And so once you have that, you have sort of the baseline that we use to make the country essentially better. Right. And then we look at things like trees. Are there tree types that we didn't have at launch, for example? Or we look at building types. For example, for France, Luxembourg, we're doing little windmills. There's several creator groups in Brazil that are really prolific, Brazil Land Games. I don't know if you know these guys, but man, they're pumping out airports like literally every week. And I try not to compete with them. I try to be helpful and augment instead of, when we release something for free, they can't sell theirs anymore, right? It's like, so I'm trying to be careful. So I'm trying to actually look ahead. What are people doing? What is still out there missing? And then we try to find the right locations in the country to fly to really embrace the entirety of the country. Oh, absolutely. I remember because my parents are in Germany. And my dad's like 92 years old, and I'm starting to worry, like, when can I see him again? There's limited time. So I was in the same state. I was quite desperate. Like I was kind of worried. And I actually flew to my parents' house, landed on the lake where my parents live, and I called him up and said, "Hey, I'm with you as close as I can be." And it was kind of a beautiful thing. The simulation can always get better. Like one of the things that when I first started this, like one of the things that really struck me is that there's so many sensors in the world, and there's the obvious ones. There's phones, right? Phones have cameras. People record stuff all the time, but it's not just that. There's literally sensors everywhere. Like in your car, I bet you your car has 20 sensors. Planes have sensors, there's tons of satellites, drones are flying around. So the data set is getting better and better and better. And that's not just visuals, that's also weather observation points, for example. So the grid with which we look at the planet's weather is increasing quite rapidly. And then, so that enables us to do better and better real-time weather, which I think is super cool. Then there are planes. Obviously, there's tons of planes still to be made. We don't have helicopters yet. Lots of people are saying, well, we want glider planes. It's super popular, at least in Europe, like sailplanes, those types of things clearly need to happen. I think airports, the third-party community is doing incredible work making the airports. There's almost 1,000 already. Like on the planet, there's 37,000. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually get 37,000 airports literally handcrafted.
Agora a gente quer ouvir a sua opinião. Você já jogou o Flight Simulator? Tem curiosidade? Se pudesse viajar para qualquer lugar do planeta, para onde você iria? Aproveita e se inscreve aqui no canal porque tem vídeo todo dia e a gente se vê no próximo. Até mais!